Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Gifted Essentials Library. It's so important, I think, as gifted and talented, creative people, that we keep expanding our horizons and learning things that maybe we didn't even know anything about or that we were curious about. And sometimes I even read books that I don't necessarily think I will agree with, but I want to keep my brain thinking. Now, that is not the case in today's book. Today's book was written by a gentleman from Canada, and I met him first in an online group, and then we hit it off right away over the power of water and being water people. And we talked on Zoom and this and that. And then I found out he wrote this book, so I got the book because I really liked his energy. And then since then, I have actually traveled back when I lived in Florida, from Florida to Pender Island, Canada, which is practically diagonally across the United States and up into Canada, long distance, just to take a weekend workshop from this person. And it was worth every minute of it. So the book I want to talk about today is a book that helps us expand and open our mind to the fact that there's so much going on in the world of personal development and the world of healing. The book I want to talk about today is called Pathways to Healing, a guide to herbs, Ayurveda, dream body, and shamanism. Now, if you talk to my friend Don Olson, who wrote the book, he won't say herbs like we do in America. He'll say herbs. So we're going to say herbs today because it's in honor of the author of the book, Don Olson. Here is the copy or the cover. Now, there's different covers for this book because apparently the United States and Canada have different ideas of what the cover could be. So this is the book, Pathways to Healing by Don Olson, Ollsin. It is an amazing, amazing book. Now, the book has, I don't know, let me look here, a couple hundred pages, and it also has a really beautiful, thorough index. Gives you all kinds of information. It also tells you how to contact him in the back. So let me tell you about the book. And the book is very user friendly. There are lots of check boxes, little quizzes to take, things for you to check out about yourself or to understand. Right out of the gate, here on page 11, which is why there's a tab here, is a part that I really resonated with. And when I first opened the book, I'm like, I don't know anything about Ayurveda. And every time somebody's tried to teach me about it, I get lost. Like I understand the concept, but I don't get it, if that makes sense, right? And I'm like, okay, well, herbs, I know a lot about them and I love that. Dream body, didn't know much about it. Shamanism, had a lot of curiosity, wasn't really sure what it meant, what he meant. And Don has studied with the indigenous first people of Canada. So his take on it, I think sometimes has a lot more depth and richness than somebody who hasn't actually been with and in the presence of and living that life. And then he talks about the seasons, which of course I love to talk about too. But when you first get started in the book and you're going through how to heal yourself personally, page 11 has on it something that's, I think, really important. And it's called contacting your inner healer. Your inner healer. And there's a whole thing where he says, do this. Tells you exactly what to do. Now, the reason why I think that this is so vital and so important is because we live in a culture that has conditioned us for generations to look outside of ourselves for the answer, to look to a doctor, to look to another person outside of us. We are full as a culture of blame and litigiousness and going after, looking out, pointing out. Well, if you have one finger pointing out, there's three pointing back. So he begins with understanding that the healing, which is bringing back together, comes from the inside out. That even if there's a herb or a doctor or a practitioner, or a massage therapist or anybody serving you, those people are helping awaken and get the flow of your inner healer going. So the answers are always within. Everything outside of us is a reflection, is an invitation, is a signpost. But that's not where the actual resolution is. It's in us. So he tells you exactly how to contact your inner healer. Do this, exclamation point. And then he gives the exercise. He gives lots of other exercises today too. And another thing I really love in this book is where he talks about the healing journey. Because I think sometimes we think in this culture of that pill a day mentality, or, okay, I'll take my antibiotics for 8 of the 10 days they were prescribed, pretend like I'm all better and move on and not make any changes or not really assess what happened. That's how we've been trained. And so Don helps us with some guidelines about how to look at our inner healing, how to see things from a more holistic, real, compassionate, down to earth kind of way, a very embodied kind of way. And so the whole book goes on and on and on about more and more information. It's loaded with information. And so here's some part about the herbs. And you see there's check boxes, there's things to do. He is very, very explicit. Another thing that I love in this book that he talks about, and I hadn't heard it until I heard it from him, so I don't really know if you all know about it, but he talks about herbal allies. That, it's not the herb that's doing the healing. It comes to with us as an ally for our greater good and our healing. And I love that word ally. And I'd never heard of it used in this manner before until I met Don, and that was in his language. He's also been featured on the Someone Gets Me podcast years ago because I really, really resonate with how he teaches, with the information, and with the depth of knowledge that comes with it. Don himself is gifted, so is his wife, and so is his daughter. And so you have a gifted family connected to earth, connected to the deeper understanding of plants. He's the one who taught me how to attune to trees and how to really get into that space, into my body and into my soul and into the actual experience of things. So so the whole book goes on and on and on, talks about the herbs, what they're about, keeps on going. This book has pages upon pages of greatness. Now, another thing in this book that I think you will find very useful for the gifted family and the gifted household is an Herbal First Aid Kit. I created one when I got this book, and I have some other things that I've added to mine, because one of the things I realize is that sometimes when it'd be nice to have a little bit of extra support or help with our own healing journey, we're not really sure where to go right away. So if we have the first aid kit, then it helps us. The first aid kit has things in it like Bach flower rescue remedy, arnica, ginger capsules, cayenne, golden seal, things that you know. Now it matters too that you pay attention to where you source things and that they're really of the highest quality, right? And he goes on, even has honey in here and clove and all of these different things. Lists it clearly, tells you what it's for. This book is full of knowledge. Since I purchased it some time ago, I use it regularly, not only for myself, but I use it for my clients. Because what I know about us gifted people who are intensely sensitive is that we feel things on a very deep cellular level. And sometimes finding an ally in a plant or in an herb in some way will really serve us in a very powerful way. Because sometimes synthetic things in our body doesn't resonate in the same kind of way with those of us who are intensely sensitive as somebody who isn't as sensitive. So this is a great way to explore different understandings, new information from a person who is knowledgeable, is skilled, still practices today for decades and decades and decades of deep work, research, and helping people free themselves from sometimes the trance of whatever they're stuck in, the believing in sickness or whatever. He also talks about shamanism and the dream body, and he gives you all different things you can do. Exercises, do this, practice this, try that. And I love the action-oriented part because it's really easy as a gifted person to flip through the book, read the books, I got the content and move on. But until we actually employ and practice and try something and do something with it, until we take whatever it is and make it ours, it's just in our head. And in our head's okay, but that's not the whole point. The point is to have our mind, our soul, our emotions, our body, all of us integrated in alignment, kind of living in and through and moving with the information, not just keeping it in our head so our prefrontal cortex can spit it out. And so this book gives you ways to practice embodying things. He also talks about the seasons, which you hear from me a lot. And he has some really, really interesting things to look at. He also shows you different ways to take care of different organs in your body with different tonics and different things to help support your physical experience. Now, as intensely sensitive people, as people who sometimes take in maybe more toxins in the world than we're meant to if we live in a city, they say that golf courses, as beautiful as they are the place most toxic in the world because of all the chemicals they use on it, right? I treated somebody a long time ago who was a toll taker in the New Jersey Turnpike years and years ago. And his whole body was totally toxic. So we used a lot of different kinds of herbs and healing teas to help his body clear out the toxin in a way that wouldn't send the rest of him into a healing crisis. So this book, Pathways to Healing, is really, really powerful. It also helps open your mind, expose you to things you may not know about, like Ayurveda or dream body or shamanism or herbs or all of them. It helps you see that there's more things going on all these different levels, that when we have allies, right, then we can be supported in very deep and meaningful ways. And sometimes those deep and meaningful ways are not cognitive. In fact, most of the time, they're not cognitive. They're energetic. They're in our being. So I highly recommend this book for all my gifted family, friends, and everybody. And I also suggest you practice some of the things he does. When he says, try this, try it. What's your experience of it? In the book also are ways to contact Don. He still is teaching classes if you want to learn how to do things. And you can go to his website and you can learn even more about him. But the book, Pathways to Healing, by Don Olson, Ollsin, was published in 2000. And it's still totally relevant today. And it's one of my go-to books on my shelf for me to check and research and resonate with. So I invite you to check out the book, Pathways to Healing, by my now friend, Don Olson. And if you have a book you would like me to review and look at and give you my input as far as giftedness or sensitivities or intensities, just let me know. Because as a sensitive, intuitive, twice exceptional and gifted person, I sometimes might have a different take on it than some people, or I might be able to translate some of the information into a meaningful way that will serve you deeply. And that's the goal of this show, is for you to be able to connect with books that aren't written just for gifted people, or books that may not be in your wheelhouse yet, or even in your radar yet, but that can really provide more meaning and more substance and connection, and maybe even points of conversation. So let me know if there's anything you want me to review. And in the meantime, remember this, that you're beautiful, you're lovable, and you are capable. Until the next episode of the Gifted Essentials Library, I wish you well.